Everyone, welcome to Literary Lovers channel. Today, let's go into the novel story of a novel, Catch 22. Catch 22, it's a very famous novel. It's a satirical novel by American writer Joseph Heller, published in 1961. The work centers on Captain John Userin, an American bombarder stationed on a Mediterranean island during the World War II, and chronicles his desperate attempts to stay alive. It's based on the theme on the insanity of war and the specter of death, or the central of this theme. War is so crazy that it unhikes everyone he touches, especially the military. Userin struggles to make sense of something senseless. So, characteristics and comes under this novel as John Userin. You know this. He is a novel's protagonist, and Userin is a captain in the U.S. Tapman is a shy man who loves his wife and family. He ends the novel encouraging Userin to flee away. Next is Doc Danik, the group's medic. Danik is not permitted to ground soldier on account of insanity. Milo Bender, the group's mess officer. So Colonel Cathcart, Userin's chief antagonist. Colonel Cathcart continually raises the numbers of missions required for men in his group to return home. Colonel Cathcart's assistant, or Userin's lieutenant, or becomes skilled at crash landing his damaged plane. So he disappear in the mid of the novel, but later he survived his last crash and has fled to Sweden. This encourages Userin to do the same at the end of the novel. Next is Major Danby, a military official who mostly appears to give briefs to Userin and the other man. So these are some of the characters come under this novel. Next, let's go to the novel. Userin has a protagonist, has a 256th Squadron of the Army Air Force during World War II, stationed on Pionoso, a fictionalized island in the Mediterranean between mainland Italy and Corsica. The squadron's assignment is to bomb enemy position in Italy and eastern France. The logical term Catch-22 is utilized in several paradoxical instances throughout the book, but the main paradox lies the bureaucratic rule called the Great Loyalty Oath Crusade. Let's keep in mind, Great Loyalty Oath Crusade. If a man willingly flies into dangerous combat missions, he must be considered insane. But if he complains the request to be relieved of this dangerous mission, the act of completing the request proves that he is sane and therefore may not be excused. And this novel has a third-person omniscient narration. Next, when a novel opens, Userin as an base hospital in Pionosa, faking a liver ailment. So he's in liver problem. He has learned that the hospital can be a peaceful refugee, and that liver ailment are difficult to diagnose. Userin and Clevenger discuss the war. He points the patriotism and honor Userin to the people shooting at him and the senseless of war. Colonel Cathcart raises the required number of missions just before Userin can complete enough to go to home. Milo, he attempts to pursue Eucerin to join his black market dealings. He is a businessman, as I told you in the introduction. And Natalie, a blindingly patriotic soldier. Macbeth, an unusual cheerful toilet. A major hears an unfortunate, mediocre, order following man, and many others are introduced. Novel focuses primarily on the flashback of the Great Big Siege of Bologna, during which Eucerin lies again to avoid flying over the target. The work of Eucerin is putting a bomb, which he hates. So next, the tone of the novel becomes decidedly darker. Many soldiers either dying or suffering unfortunate circumstances. After the bombing of Bologna, Eucerin spends a night with a woman named Luciana in Rome. The novel returns to the present in 1944. Usually, novels travels past and present, past and present. So here, present 1944, in the hospital. It's although from here the order of events becomes much less distant. The required number of missions is now 55. The chaplain attempts to speak for those soldiers who have completed their required missions and want to be sent home, but is refused by Cathcart. Knightley and an old Italian man argue about patriotism, dying for one's country and war. During a mission of Linghorn, Italy, this is another mission. Bologna is one, and this is the second one. So Eucerin suffers a leg wound that results in his being hospitalized again. This is the past. While there, he and airman Dunbar take on the identities of other patients. Eucerin is sent to the hospital psychiatrist, who concludes that he is crazy and should go home. However, because psychiatrist thought he was examining a fortiori, it is fortiori who get sent home. A person who was sent because of he is not has insane. After returning to his tent, Eucerin declines or requests to fly with him, and on his next mission, or crashes into the Mediterranean and does not return. Cathcart then orders an attack on an undefined village in order to produce pleasing photographs for General Pickham. Dunbar, however, dumps his bomb a safe distance from the village. On a subsequent training run, Eucerin threats to strangle the pilot, Macbeth, for performing a dangerous aerial stunts. Later, Macbeth playfully buzzes the beach and his plane and accidentally slices Kid Sampson in half. He then deliberately crashes his plane into a mountain because Doc Danick was falsely listed on Macbeth's manifest. It is assumed that he also died, and he is thereafter unable to convince anyone, including his wife, that he remains alive. After 4 young recruits are assigned to Eucerin's tent, Eucerin escapes to Rome with Hungry Joe. While there, Eucerin helps Natalie rescue a prostitute being held. See, while Eucerin was escaping, he has not given any hint to the he didn't get any permission letter from the majors. Later, Natalie rescues a prostitute being held by some senior officers. Natalie is in love with that woman, and later Nurse Duckett tells Eucerin that she has overheard a plane to disappear in quote. Dunbar. After that, Eucerin cannot find Dunbar. The number of required mission is raised to 80. This is here the missions. The rising in the number of missions. It's not because of the war, but because to increase their the level of these majors or colonels and their position, and they need to get promoted to higher so that they just go on increasing their numbers and the requirements for the wars. The people, there needs requirements for people for the war. Just it's not politics. And both Dobbs and Natalie are killed in fight. Eucerin begins walking backward and refuses to fly more missions. He is sent to Rome to rest. When he tells the prostitute about Natalie's death, when he means Eucerin, she blames Eucerin and makes repeated attempts to kill him, even after he returns to Pianosa. However, when he learns that military police have emptied the brothel, he travels to Rome without permission. He is unable to find either the prostitute or her younger sister. And Rome has become shockingly barbarous. He goes to the officer's apartment where he finds the Orphe, a lady who was raped and killed a maid. So he is a person. Orphe is a officer who was raped a maid, and the military police arrive and arrest Eucerin for being in Rome without a pass. Facing the possible court-martial, Eucerin is offered a deal by Corn and Cathcart. They will promote him to major and send him home if he pretends to be friends with the two officers and shows support for their policies. Eucerin agrees, but as he is leaving, Natalie's prostitute, disguised as a private, stabs him. In the hospital, a mysterious man tells Eucerin, "We have got you, Paul." Eucerin reflects that his only remaining friend is Hungry Joe. But the chaplain tells him that he too has died. Eucerin decides to renege on the deal. The chaplain returns to tell him that Orr has been found living in Sweden, and Eucerin decides to go there. As he leaves the hospital, Eucerin escapes another murder attempt. The novel ends with Eucerin running out the door on his way to neutral territory. Eucerin's plan is to rescue Natalie's kid sister from the street of Rome and flee to Sweden, where his buddy Orr has turned up after cleverly using his plane crash as a means of escape. Eucerin hopes to find himself by losing himself, to seek a separate peace, to run toward life by escaping the madness of war. Her witness, the friends, dies horrific death, and Airman disappears as the colonels and generals above him continue to push their men into the treacherous battles. As everyone around him dies or disappears, Eucerin loses his grip on reality. Although Hiller himself had been bombarded during the Second World War, completing 60 missions and using this experience as inspiration for his novel Catch-22, he has stated his criticism of both war and the government came more from the Korean and the Cold War. So this is a brief story of Catch-22.